Okay, you talked about how taxes started after Civil War, but that's not when income taxes started. Does anybody know when income taxes started?
Great Depression.
Not the Great Depression, before that. 1918 is when we had our first income taxes. And do you know why we have income taxes? Paying off was part of it, but why did they decide to do income taxes as opposed to something else? Believe it or not, it's because of Prohibition. Because up until 1918, 1/3 of federal government revenues came from liquor taxes. And the people who wanted to establish Prohibition knew there was no way the government was going to allow that much money to go away. So they're the ones who passed the 16th Amendment, and we got property taxes because of it, or income taxes because of it. So, kind of a funny thing. Now, mind you, if liquor license or liquor taxes were still 1/3 of our government revenue, we'd be drinking a lot more than we are today. But we have income tax instead. And actually, a couple years after we started income taxes, one of the very first tax changes, advantages, I don't want to call it a loophole because it's not a loophole, but one of the very first tax advantages was what would become the 1031 exchange. So just kind of a little trivia there for if you want to know more about taxes. Anyway, my name is Ron Ricard. I work for a company called IPX, or Investment Property Exchange. We are what is known as a qualified intermediary. Sometimes you hear the term a facilitator, an accommodator. Bottom line is we are the company that you need to enlist when you do what's called a 1031 exchange. 1031 is a section of the tax code. It's a section of the tax code that says, in essence, when you own real or personal property that you use in business or as an investment, you can sell that asset, buy a like-kind asset, and as long as you follow the rules, you get to defer paying taxes on the profit that you made. So what does that mean in English? You got a rental house. It's been a rental for the last 10 years, 20 years. You're sick of it. So you want to sell that and buy a fourplex. So you list the property. At the close of escrow, the money comes to the intermediary. You then go find that fourplex. We put the money into the escrow, and the property closes. In the eyes of the IRS, you sold a piece of investment real estate and you bought a piece of investment real estate. And because you never saw the money, because we held it from you, you get to defer paying taxes on the profit that you made. Now, important word here, defer, not eliminate. Okay? If I sell a house to buy a duplex and later I sell the duplex and buy a fourplex, now I'm old and I'm tired, I'm sick of real estate, I just sell that fourplex, I got to pay taxes from the house, the duplex, and the fourplex. So you are just deferring the taxes, not eliminating the taxes. Now, sometimes people ask me here, well, why bother doing an exchange? We have to pay the taxes anyway, right? Well, there are two reasons you always want to consider doing a 1031 exchange. The number one reason is, would you prefer to pay the government tomorrow or today? I hope it's tomorrow, right? Exactly. The longer we can push it out. Basically, if I make $100,000 of profit on a property and I got to pay $30,000 to the government, I only have $70,000 to reinvest. But because I get to do the exchange, I get to reinvest the entire $100,000. And that extra $30,000 that I'm not giving Uncle Sam and Uncle Jerry, that their extra $30,000 is either going to buy me more real estate, or it's going to be less of a loan I need to get. It's going to help my cash flow. Basically, it's a way for you to build your wealth faster through real estate. Now, the sad truth is, the real reason we do exchanges is because most of us will never have to pay taxes. Because what happens to us eventually? You pass away. And when we die, you win. Because, okay, be honest. When you die, your kids win. Because when you die, your heirs get what's called the step up in tax basis. Okay, now I'm sure most of you have an idea what that means, but I'll make sure we're all on the same page here. If I buy something for $100,000, and now it's worth $500,000. If I sell it, I got to pay tax on $400,000. But the day I die, whoever inherits the property from me, their basis on the property is the value of the property the day I die. And if your kids are like mine, the day after my funeral, boom, they're selling all my real estate. So when they sell it for $500,000, how much taxes do they have to pay? Zero. It was worth $500 when I die. They sell it for $500, and therefore they have no capital gain. Yes.
I have a question. Because I heard from a lot of people who have this problem. They don't have a trust. they don't have a will, you have to pay 50% of the value. The kids have to pay before they get the birth.
No, not necessarily. You get the step up in basis whether you die, what's called intestate, with a will or with a trust. The advantage of the trust, though, and I'm not an attorney, just to let you know, but I do know a little bit about this stuff. The advantage of the trust is that it does not need to go through probate court, and it takes so within a few months the properties can be transferred. Whereas if his will,
estate taxes. You talk about estate taxes.
but the estate tax only kicks in if your estate is worth more than $5.5 million. As long as your estate's worth less than $5.5 million, we don't have to worry about the estate tax. I'm not good, but as far as the capital gains portion of it goes, that all gets wiped away. Whoever inherits the property from you, whether it's your kids or anybody else. Now, I did say though, what you sell and what you buy has to be investment real estate. By the way, there's a that term is very misleading. A lot of people get it confused. Like kind. What you sell and what you buy need to be like kind. So let me ask you, can you sell a fourplex and buy an apartment building? Is that like kind? Yes. Can you sell a fourplex and buy a shopping center? Is that like kind? Yes. Can you sell a fourplex and buy bare land? Yes. All real estate is like kind with all other real estate. Make it real simple for you. As long as what you're selling and what you're buying is investment real estate, then it can be any kind of real estate. Now, one thing to remember is 1031 is also for all assets used for business or investment. Okay, I did an exchange last year for a gentleman who sold an airplane. What's like kind with an airplane?
A car.
Nope, another airplane. Another airplane. Actually, though, a helicopter is, which I find kind of funny. You know, you sell a car, you buy a car. Now, the cars, these are vehicles or whatever that are used for business or investment. My favorite story is back in 2002. A gentleman bought a horse at auction for $900,000. A month later, he runs it in the Kentucky Derby. 21-1 long shot. It wins. He sold the horse 6 months later for $17 million. He could have done a 1031 exchange with the horse. But what's like kind with a horse? Another horse, but even better, it has to be the same sex. A male horse is not like kind with a female horse. True story. Dairy cattle are not like kind with beef cattle. Okay? We're not talking, hey, trust me, when I give this talk out in the Central Valley, this is important stuff, okay? But for us in the Bay Area, we don't care about livestock, we care about real estate. And on real estate, selling investment real estate, buying investment real estate. Also, side note, anywhere in America. You can sell in California, buy in Florida, buy in Hawaii. I'm setting up an exchange later this week for a woman who's selling her property on Guam and wants to buy in San Jose. Perfectly okay. It's anywhere in the United States, it's okay. You cannot exchange into or out of foreign countries, but it can be anywhere within the United States. Now, I did say, though, it has to be investment real estate. So what kind of real estate is not investment real estate? Where you live, primary residence. Where your primary residence has a completely different tax rule. It's called Tax Rule 121. Section 121 says if you live in your house for at least how long? Anybody know? 2 years. And once you live in your house for at least 2 years, then when you sell the property, you get an automatic tax deduction. If you're single, you get to keep the first $250,000 of your gain tax-free. If you're married, the wife gets to keep $500,000 tax-free. If your gain is more than $500,000, then you have to pay tax on whatever the amount above that is. Okay? Primary residence only qualifies for that exemption. By the way, for those of you who haven't sold your house in a while, the old rule was what was called a 1034 exchange, which meant you had to buy another house. Gone. Now, whenever you sell your primary residence, you have that $250,000, $500,000, and you can do whatever you want with it. You do not have to go buy another property. By the way, you could take advantage of that rule every 2 years. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's every 2 years. Now, is it possible for a primary residence to be both an investment and a residence at the same time?
Yes.
Give me an example. Duplex. I live on one side, rent out the other side. If any of you have a home-based business that you declare on your tax return that a portion of your house is used for your business, a portion of your house is considered to be investment real estate. So it is possible for a property to be partially investment and partially a primary residence at the same time. How about a second home? How about the little house in the hills that you like to go to on weekends and you just for your own personal use? Is a second home considered to be an investment? No, no. If you're not now, if it's a vacation rental, you know, someplace like say Tahoe or Las Vegas or in Hawaii that you go there for a few weeks per year, when you're not there, you rent it out. That's investment real estate. If it's something that's strictly for your personal use, is not. You buy a property for the purpose of reselling it, the IRS calls that a job. Okay? It's a little bit like going to the store. When you go to Safeway to buy a can of soup, that soup is not an investment for Safeway, right? It's inventory. They bought it from Campbell's and they're selling it to you at a profit. They buy a chicken, they cut the head off, they wrap it in plastic and they sell it to you. That's a fixer-upper. They bought it, they fixed it up, and they sold it to you. That's exactly what you're doing with the real estate. So that is not investment. Now, how can you turn a flip into an investment?
Hold it at least a year.
Not hold it at least a year. If it takes you a year to fix it up, you're just slow. You need to rent it out. You need to own the property like investment, i.e. you need to be renting it out. Now, how long do you need to rent it out for? The IRS doesn't tell you. Now, if you've been renting something for 2 years, no problem. Most accountants recommend at least 1 year. But if you've been renting it less than a year, it's a slippery slope. Did you really buy that property with the intention of it being an investment, or are you just trying to season it a little bit to try and get away with something? So, you know, my suggestion to you is this: if you want to do this, if you've been renting a property for less than a year, make sure you talk to a good CPA, because he or she's going to have to defend you to the IRS if you get challenged about it.